Look, I'm not saying that what just happened in Florida was the dumbest move of the campaign, but it's not far off. This plane carrying a pro-Trump banner flew above Taylor Swift's Miami concert and, well, take a look for yourself to understand why this was a not great idea. That banner read, Trump 2024, ready for it, cat lady? MAGA. Now, this goes without saying, but Taylor Swift is the most popular musician in the world, and her Eras Tour is the most successful tour in history, and her fans who attend that tour are really, really devoted, and Taylor has a special propensity for activating those fans, which I'll get to in a moment. But all of that is to say, perhaps trolling Taylor Swift and her loyal fans outside of her concert in Miami isn't such a great strategy when the election is in 2 weeks and polls show that the race is as close as it gets right now. In fact, it's not like Taylor's fans can't do anything about it. The Florida Democratic Party and the Swifties for Kamala voter outreach group are making the most of Taylor's 3 shows in Miami, hosting listening parties, doing statewide canvassing, phone and text banking, working with Snapchat for pro-voting Taylor Swift filters, which includes a link to iwillvote.com, meaning given all of the ways that Democrats and Swift-aligned advocacy groups are working to convert fans into voters, perhaps it's not the smartest idea in the world to prod those same people with flyover planes attacking them. Just, for starters. And of course, all of this is in addition to Taylor's biggest move, her decision to endorse Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
I don't think you know about this, but this was just posted online by a woman you might have heard of whose name is Taylor Swift. And she has posted this online along with a photo of her cat. And I'm going to read to you what she just posted. Quote, like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on the topics that matter to you the most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country. Recently, I was made aware that AI of me, quote me, falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. Then she says, quote, I will be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she is a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we're led by calm and not chaos. I was so heartened and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who has been standing up for LGBTQ plus rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. I've done my research, and I've made my choice. Your research is all yours to do, and the choice is yours to make. I also want to say, especially to first-time voters, remember that in order to vote, you have to be registered. I also find it's much easier to vote early. I will link where to register and find early voting dates and info in my story. With love and hope, Taylor Swift, signed Childless Cat Lady.
And here's the most amazing part. This was all an unforced error by Trump himself, because Donald Trump decided it was so necessary to lie and deceive his supporters with this post of AI-generated Taylor Swift supporters alongside the words, I accept from Trump, as if he was actually accepting the endorsement of Taylor or her fans. Well, suddenly it became necessary for Taylor to speak out. Again, had he not felt the insatiable need to lie always, he might have saved himself from contending with the world's biggest musical artist coming out against him. But because he has no self-control, here we are. It's also worth reminding everyone that her endorsement of Kamala drove more than 405,000 visitors to vote.gov in just the 24 hours after it was posted. Now, one would think that Trump would tread carefully here, given this isn't exactly his strongest demographic. Based on the latest Harvard poll, Harris is leading Trump among young voters by a 31-point margin. And what's worse for Trump? There's a significant enthusiasm gap between young Democrats and Republicans. 74% of young Democrats say they will definitely vote, compared with only 60% of young Republicans saying they'll definitely vote. And it's even more pronounced among young female voters, who the Harvard poll found supported Kamala over Trump 70-23. That is a 47-point margin, which is staggeringly high. And that may or may not have something to do with the fact that Donald Trump will strip the entire generation of their bodily autonomy, which doesn't exactly seem to be landing with young women who seem to value being able to decide what happens with their own body. And let's be clear, if those numbers hold up, that will signify a huge swing left among young voters from 2020. In 2020, Pew Research shows that Biden had a 24-point lead over Trump among 18 to 29-year-old voters. And yet, despite all of this, still Trump will keep up his attacks against Taylor because he is the smallest, most delicate man in the world. In fact, listen to what he said about Taylor Swift on Fox and Friends.
Out of nowhere, after the debate last night, Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris. What do you think?
Well, I actually like Mrs. I actually like Mrs. Mahomes much better, if you want to know the truth. She's a big Trump fan. I was not a Taylor Swift fan. It was just a question of time. She couldn't. You couldn't possibly endorse Biden. You look at Biden, you couldn't possibly endorse him. But she's a very liberal person. She seems to always endorse a Democrat. And she'll probably pay a price for it at in the marketplace.
Probably worth noting that within one day of him having made that comment on air, Taylor went to the Video Music Awards and took home the most awards and broke the record for most wins of any solo artist in history. So yeah, just a hunch, but something tells me that Taylor is probably not gonna pay a price for it in the marketplace. In fact, she's so certain that she won't that she's continuing her voter registration pleas. Here she is on stage at the VMAs.
To the fans, I'm always trying to figure out a way to say thank you to you for making my life what it is, for making the Eras Tour what it has become, for making the Tortured Poets Department what it has become. That's all you guys for doing that and for voting for this award. So thank you to MTV for giving me this opportunity to thank the fans, to thank you for what you've done. And the fact that this is a fan-voted award and you voted for this, I appreciate it so much. And if you are over 18, please register to vote for something else that's very important coming up, the 2024 presidential election. I love you all so much. Thank you for this moment.
So I think Taylor probably understands full well that her career is going to be fine without kowtowing to the guy who ensured that women would lose their reproductive freedom. And to that point, Taylor, along with Billie Eilish and Charli XCX and Beyonce and Olivia Rodrigo, and all of the other massively popular female artists who have endorsed Kamala, are exposing the reality of Donald Trump, that he is weak. He wants nothing more than to frame himself as strong, and yet since the moment that she entered the race, Kamala has looked leagues stronger than him. She's appeared on Fox News and 60 Minutes and has been taking tough questions everywhere, all the while Trump has canceled interviews with Politico, CNBC, NBC, 60 Minutes, bailed on an NRA rally, and refused to get on stage for a second debate with Kamala after the disaster that was his first debate. And now Trump is sitting idly by while the biggest stars in America not only endorse Kamala over him, but actively push their audiences to register to vote and head out to the polls. All the while, Trump sits there attacking them online like a fat-fingered keyboard warrior, sending angry all-caps tweets from the breakfast buffet at his golf club. To claim that Donald Trump's strength, influence, and self-control are all waning would be the understatement of the century. Now, if Trump had any sense, he'd probably stop going head-to-head with women who are more popular, more influential, and more powerful than he is. He'd probably cut his losses and save himself the embarrassment. But if there's one thing we know about Trump, it is his inability to accept defeat, which means we may not have even seen the last voter registration link coupled with some not-so-nice words about Trump. And considering these artists have enough sway to single-handedly register enough voters to swing entire states from red to blue, that's not exactly what I'd call a smart move by him. But then again, most of his moves aren't. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.